Jasodanandana Brajanjana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jai Gaura Haribo Haribo Haribol Nitai Gaura Haribol Lord Pramanandi Nitai Gaura Haribol Haribol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Sri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Gandharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Status Quo, Chapter 22, The Marriage of Kardama Muni and Devahuti, text number 35. Ajata Jamastasa San. Ajata Jamastasya San. Jamasvantara Japanaha. Jamasvantara Japanaha. Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu. Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu. Kurvato Bruvata Kataha. Kurvato Bruvata Kataha. Ajata Jamastasya San. Jamaswantarata Japanaha. Srinvato Dhyayato Vishnu. Kurvato Bruvata Kataha. Vishnu. Ajata Jamastasya San. Jamasvantara Japanaha. Srimvato Dhyayato Vishnu. Vaishnavis. Ayata Jamatasya San. Kurvato Bruvata Kataha. No? Ayata Jamas. Ajata Jamaha. Time never lost. Dasya of Manu. Ashan where? Jamaha the hours. Swaantara his duration of life. Japanaha bringing to an end. Srimvata hearing. Dhyayataha contemplating. Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Kurvataha, acting. Bruvataha, speaking. Kataha, the topics. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Please repeat. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours, becomes stale and tasteless, so the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. But at the end of life, everything becomes tasteless and everything appears to be vain and painful. The life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. The life of a man in Krishna consciousness is always fresh. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. But the sunrise and sunset cannot diminish the life of one who engages in Krishna consciousness. Swayambhuva Manu's life did not become stale after some time, for he engaged himself always in chanting about and meditating upon Lord Vishnu. He was the greatest yogi because he never wasted his time. It is especially mentioned here, Vishnu Kurvato Bruvataha Kata. Vishnu Kurvato Bruvata Kataha. When he talked only of Krishna and Vishnu, the personality of Godhead. When he heard something, it was about Krishna. When he meditated, it was upon Krishna and his activities. It is stated that his life was very long, 71 yugas. One yuga is completed in 4,320,000 years. 71 of such yugas is the duration of the life of a Manu. And 14 such Manus come and go in our day of Brahma. For the entire duration of his life, 4,320,000 times 71 years. Manu engaged in Krishna consciousness by chanting, hearing, talking about, and meditating upon Krishna. Therefore, his life was not wasted, nor did it become stale. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanandhyana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pucharine Nirvisesha Sunyavari Paschatya Desatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavindan. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram. Vanchakalpataruvhyascha kripasindhu vivacha patitanam pavanevyo vaishnavavyo mo namaha. So, this particular verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 22nd chapter, changes, for a few verses, as the focus of the description has changed from Kardama Muni to Swayambhuva Manu, his father-in-law. And Prabhupada takes advantage of these verses. And based on the commentaries of the previous acharyas, he brings a particular teaching or advice, direction into the practical application of Krishna consciousness in our life. So the description prior to this verse was about the place. Sometimes it says place, time, and circumstances. So, like Maharaj was describing yesterday, the beautiful setting that we have here, and in reference, day before yesterday, and also the village life that it's described in the Vedas, how peaceful, how auspicious, everything is so beautiful when it's connected to Krishna. And how it's a common practice. In India, we see that still, in some places, that people are chanting the glories of the Lord, described in the Shastras, in the scriptures, the Ramayana, Mahabharata. And I remember the first time I went to Puri in the late 80s, and then we would walk. We were staying at the Gaudiya Math had a hostel, little place there to stay. And then we would walk all the way to the temple. And I remember on our way, there were at least 2 or 3 Brahmins who were having thick books. I didn't understand the language, mostly, surely in Sanskrit perhaps, Mahabharata and Ramayana. And you would cross every few blocks, there will be a Brahmin on the veranda of some houses there, and they were just chanting on their own. No one was there, no microphone, no big program, no banners, no anything, no stage. They were just reciting like that every day, every day, every day. In the beginning I thought, oh, it's just a particular day, I don't know, full moon day or one of those days. But it was just every day. And then I asked, and then they say, no, they do it every day. It doesn't matter if it's raining, if it's hot, it's cold, every day. So that is the practice. And here, Srila Prabhupada wanted us to repeat the Sanskrit. I believe, whether I heard it or I read it, that Prabhupada wanted us to learn these verses. And that's why we repeat. Often, a few times, I don't know how many times, 8 times or whatever, the Sanskrit, because Prabhupada wanted us to learn these teachings. He wanted us to learn these verses. And one thing that I find it useful in learning Sanskrit verses, or at least trying to remember something from what we have read, is to at least learn one word. Prabhupada also says that. If you can at least read one word. So, which word of the verse here is familiar to you? There are a few words that are somewhat often repeated. Any word? If you can read, if you can see it properly. Vishnu? Yeah, that's an easy one. Yeah? Which one? Jamas means? Jamas? Japa? Shrimbata. Yeah, that's a good one. Gayato, meaning? Meditation. So you're experts, yeah? Sometimes, we don't know Sanskrit. But actually, without knowing, by the mercy of Prabhupada, we're becoming somewhat knowledgeable about these things. And it's very important because all these words that you mentioned have a very deep, powerful meaning. Prabhupada often said that he will comment further on the Bhakti Shastras. And one time when he was reading the Bhagavad Gita very carefully, scrutinizingly, after like 20 minutes, he was really immersed, and the secretary assistant devotee who was with him asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is everything all right? Because sometimes Prabhupada will find faults. And sometimes he will do this. He open, and the spine sometimes will just, and the pages will just fly all over, and Prabhupada will be very upset. And then he will send a message to the BVT devotees to fix those mistakes or to correct the printing, like that. So when Prabhupada started reading, sometimes devotees got a bit nervous because they thought, okay, he's going to find something and he's going to reprimand the BVT devotees. So they asked him, Prabhupada, is everything all right? He says, yeah, everything is okay. A couple times they asked him that. He kept reading. And then at one point he said, he was reading the Bhagavad Gita. At one point he said, we should write Bhagavad Gita. And the devotee got a bit concerned, Prabhupada, you are reading your Bhagavad Gita. And you already written one Bhagavad Gita as it is, commented. And Prabhupada said, yeah, but just one. So he meant he's reading and so many things are coming. He's reading his own commentary and more things are coming to his mind. I remember, what's that? Yeah, I mean, so many things, that and Prabhupada does say that in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the purposes. He says, sometimes we may not understand, but if you keep reading, some things will come, right? And have you had that experience? And maybe the first time I read it, it's like, oh, what is this, But then after years and years, hundreds of times, perhaps we hear these things, some realizations come, and then you connect with other places. For example, here, this verse, Prabhupada is referring to one point, and this is, should be, the standard practice in our studying Srila Prabhupada's teachings. Let me read the verse to make it easier. Consequently, although his duration of life gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down. Interesting how it's like writing down. I don't know, I'm not a Sanskrit expert, but it sounds like it's something that just came, just like he's doing, he's writing it down. But I don't think in the translation it is specifically said that. Right? It says, Shrimbata Deyato Vishnu. Shrimbata is hearing, Deyato is meditating or contemplating. Right? Brubata, speaking. Kurvata, acting. Kata, the topics. The Prabhupada translates, writing down. Very interesting. Yeah. But it's not the literal meaning. That's what I'm saying. It's not the literal meaning, but Prabhupada includes that. And he does that in different occasions, in different translations, Some things that you can see he adds a little something. Like expert cooks, sometimes they put a little extra something, right? A bit of saffron or a bit of extra garnishing, like that. So, is the light on? No, that's what I thought. We need light. So Srila Prabhupada is referring to a specific point here. It's an important aspect of our studying Prabhupada's instructions to see what the context is. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that one. Thank you. He's referring to what? From what I just read, it's a specific topic that Prabhupada is referring to. We just read it in the verse. Anybody? Consequently, although his duration of life, that is Swayambhuva Manu, gradually came to an end, his long life, consisting of a Manvantara era, was not spent in vain, since he ever engaged in hearing, contemplating, writing down, and chanting the pastimes of the Lord. So the question is, what is the topic of this verse? And that Prabhupada chooses to comment on in the purport. It's there. Yeah. Why? Yeah. 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 Okay. So Prabhu says that because he has spent his life, that is Swayambhuva Manu, then the verse says that it wasn't spent in vain, right? So that's what Prabhupada picks up on to comment on in his purport, right? And he's basically referring to a famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, third chapter, 17th verse, the famous Ayur Haradivai Pumsam Udyamastam Chayan Aso Tasyarte Jakshanonita Utamashloka Vartaya. And the verse is translated like this: both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Famous verse, one of the most quoted verses by Prabhupada. Ayur Harati Vai Punsam. If you don't remember the whole verse, at least the first line. That's an easy one, because then you can go and Google it and see where it is. Ayur Harati Vai Punsam. Ayur refers to life. Harati refers to stealing. Like Hari is one who steals. Hara, steals. Steals the bad things. Yeah? Krishna takes away the bad things. Ayur Harati Vai Punsam. Punsam refers to man or humanity, mankind. But the important line in that verse, again 2:3:17, is Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Uttama Shloka Vartaya. Uttama Shloka, it's the name of Krishna. That person who is glorified with Uttama Shloka. Shloka means verses or praises or verses, etc. Uttama, the topmost shlokas, the topmost glorification. Vartaya. Vartaya means the topics. Uttama Shloka Vartaya. That the person is constantly engaged in those topics. That's what it is. So Prabhupada is commenting on that verse here. He doesn't quote the verse, but he is obviously commenting on this verse, right? Because he says, where does he say? It is said, kind of 1/3 of the purport, he said. It is said that the sun rises in the morning and sets in the evening, and its business is to reduce the duration of everyone's life. Right? So Prabhupada is referring to that verse, although he's not quoting it, right? But it's clear. So that's what happens when we study Srila Prabhupada's books. At some point, by his mercy, and Paramatma, and the devotees, eventually you start connecting. Yeah, that's one of the ways. Basically, this is generic principles. In studying, one of the things that the way that knowledge is assimilated is by dividing things. Right? In fact, Vyasadev, you know what the meaning of Vyasa means? What is it? You should know. You forgot? Yes, to divide. Vyasadev, in other words, could be translated as the divider, the one who divides. Yeah? And you can see all the knowledge, it's divided. Originally into 4 Vedas, and then divided into further extensions and things like that, the Puranas, the Itihasas, all this. Divided. Bhagavatam is divided. How many verses we have? 18,000. Divided into how many cantos? 12 cantos. So it's divided. So that's a standard. If you want to understand something, we need to divide that. That's what Krishna incarnated as Vyasadev does. And then the other thing is that we have to summarize. The Bhagavatam is summarizing. What's the book that all the Bhagavatam, all the knowledge, the essential knowledge of the Upanishads, it's summarizing to? Vedanta Sutra. Come on. Make us proud. Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is the summarization of all the essential teachings of the Upanishads. And the Upanishads are the confidential areas of the Vedas. If you read the Vedas, you're going to get dizzy, you're going to get misguided, etc. But if you read the Upanishads, then you start getting a hint. There is something here. And that something, Krishna uses the word guhyam. Guhyam means secret. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam. Right. Correct? He refers to Guhyam in chapter 9, in chapter 12, in chapter 15, like that. Different parts. Chapter 18. And what is that secret? I mean, you all are advanced souls, so you know, I'm just steering. So, what is that secret? The secret of the secrets. What is that secret? You all know. You practice it every day. Don't be shy. Bhakti. Exactly. Bhakti. And that's what Krishna refers to at the end of chapter 15 when he says to Arjuna, I'm telling you, the most secret part of the Vedas about the relationship between you and I and all the living entities. So he's bringing the secret. So that secret is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra, right? But I always like to understand it. The Vedanta Sutra is like an accordion or a harmonium. When you condense it, right? It's small. Vedanta Sutra, Prabhupada translate as aphorisms or formulas or maxims. You know maxims? They are short sentences. They are very powerful. The knowledge is condensed there. So the Vedanta Sutra, it's the summarization of the essential teachings of the Upanishads, the secret parts of the Vedas. And then when it expands, just like an accordion, expands, then becomes the Srimad Bhagavatam, right? Why? Because in the Srimad Bhagavatam we find examples. It is very, very simple to understand. Why the Srimad Bhagavatam? We may say, why 18,000 verses? How many verses Bhagavad Gita? 700. Exactly. Right? No 1, no 699, correct? Yeah? Right? We have done that exercise before. Who gives more? It's like an auction. 700 verses. So around, 25 times bigger is the Bhagavatam. So why the Bhagavatam is so elaborated? Because of the examples. Every point that Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita is exemplified in the Bhagavatam. Any point, right? For example, one of the main teachings that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita is, in practical terms, is to accept the spiritual master, right? What verse, chapter? 434. Come on, you have to wait for a proper disciple to. We should know all these things. Come on, you youngsters. Have fresh brains. 434. Tadvidi pranipatena, etc. Right? So how do we find that spiritual master? And what do we do? How do we ask questions? That's exemplified in the Bhagavatam, the very first chapter. Yeah? Question by the sages. It's all about questions. That's the whole Bhagavatam. The whole Bhagavatam begins with a question and ends with a question. And the questions are so powerful. Sutta Goswami explains in the beginning of in the first canto, first chapter, that these questions are so powerful, so potent. Imagine this is the power of Krishna consciousness. That you just asking the questions, you're satisfied already. Munaya sadhu pristoham. Babadbir lokamangalam. What's the verse? Jadkrita Krishna samprashno janadma suprasidati. Janadma or jajadma? Janadma. Janadma suprasidati. Right? Just asking the questions, you're already happy. No? It's like if you go and ask, how do I go to the supermarket? And you already know. That's the magic of Krishna consciousness. Just asking the question submissively, the answer already, it's coming. As they say in India, just coming. All right? So that's the idea, the questions. How to ask questions. That's Srimad Bhagavatam. And the answers are given by Guru and by Krishna and by the Vaishnavas, like that. So, in this case, we are reading the description between the marriage between Kardama and Devahuti. But as a side note, Swayambhuva Manu character is described and how he lived his life. It's not that he's just the boss. Someone named him the emperor, etc. But he is there. What's that phrase Prabhupada used to say? Deserve first and desire later. He's a deserving leader. So leader is not like nowadays. Whoever gets more votes. This weekend it's elections, I think. Yeah? Right? Correct? I never pay attention to such things, and then I'm fined $20 or whatever it is. But that's the system. The system is that we have to be deserving recipients of Krishna's mercy. In this case, the example is given by Swayambhuva Manu. And what is his credit? What is that he did to be a deserving recipient of such position and being involved? I mean, mind you that he's giving his daughter to Swayambhuva Manu, right? And, to Kardama, sorry. And from his daughter, Lord Krishna will be born. Kapila Dev. So this is a very, very special situation here. Kardama Muni is blessed, Devahuti is blessed, Swayambhuva Manu is blessed. Why? Because they're all connected to Krishna in the form of Kapila Dev. So, and why? What is his credential? Like when you go for a job interview, they ask you so many things, right? And one of the questions I remember was, what do you bring into this organization, to the team? What are your best qualities? What are your strengths? They ask like that, right? So what is Swayambhuva Manu's strength here, or credential? That he's always hearing about Krishna, constantly hearing, day and night. I remember the first time I read, and maybe some of you had that experience, the first time we read in the Nectar of Instruction, what is it? Verse 7 or verse 8? You remember, Prabhu? Upadesha Saram. Rupa Goswami says, the essence of all instructions is to chant 24 hours, Prabhupada translate like this, 24 hours a day, the holy name of the Lord. Chant 24 hours a day. Rupa Goswami is giving the essence, you have it there? You got it? So, it's verse 7 or 8. So I remember when I read the first time, I thought, the essence of all advice. What number is it? 8. That's the essence of the essence. Nectar of instruction. Can you read it?
The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastime, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way one should reside in Brata, Lord Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotees.
Yeah, so when I read that, at least that part, 24 hours a day, I thought, okay, this is a cult. Certainly. What did I get myself into? This is a cult. Cannot be 24 hours. It's okay sometime. It's okay, a great part of your day. But 24 hours? No way. This is brainwashing big time. But eventually it makes sense. And I heard so many classes about this. It's like, how many hours a day do you breathe? Right, correct? It's normal. It's normal, right? Yeah. I mean, all the time. It's going on. Because that's our life. That's our life. I mean, I cannot claim something that I'm not, but that's the life of a true devotee. Cannot live without Krishna, So, that is the message that it's been given here by the example of Swayambhuva Manu. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes Srimad also can be translated in different ways. Srimad, beautiful. Srimad can mean beautiful, right? The beautiful stories or pastimes of the activities of Bhagavan. So Bhagavatam related to Bhagavan, or Bhagavad Gita, like that. But also can be translated as the beautiful pastimes, or the example, the beautiful example given in the lives of the Bhagavatas. The Bhagavatas means the devotees. So we learn what is our takeaway from today's purport. That we need to hear constantly. But this is like saying, I don't know your experience, but I remember in my childhood, my mom had this phrase that I hated it. And she always had this saying, every time we sat for taking our lunch or dinner, drink your soup. Every day. Oh, she nagged me my whole childhood. Drink your soup. And guess what? I hated her soups. I just couldn't take it. I still remember there are some soups that I can't even hear the name. She was a terrible cook. She knows that. She acknowledges that. So, you cannot eat or drink or do something that you don't like, is it? That's just common sense. But she wouldn't have to push me to, eat my ice cream or drink my Coca-Cola or something like that, because I love those things. So in the same way, the trick of this process, as will be explained by Rupa Goswami in a very condensed way, summarized way, in the Nectar of Instruction, or more elaborated in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. There's one word in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that is the, how do you call that? It's the seed of the whole book. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Who knows what that word is? You should know, because you get red card. Rasa, thank you. You see? Rasa, taste. And this is exactly how the verse starts. Let's go back to the verse. Sometimes we have to do a bit of work and then come back to the purport, and it makes so much more sense. As freshly prepared food is very tasteful, but if kept for 3 or 4 hours becomes stale and tasteless. So the existence, an analogy Prabhupada is using, so the existence of material enjoyment can endure as long as life is fresh. The flavor, the taste is there. But at the fact end of life, everything becomes tasteless. So it's about taste. I was just reading this morning because Nishinha Kavacha, apologies for disappointing the audience, but I was told that he cannot give class, so I said, yeah, I can do it, let me get into it. So as soon as I start reading this, taste is rasa. Rasa is nectar of devotion in full. That's a complete science of bhakti, Prabhupada call it. So when things become tasteless, everything appears to be vain and painful. Right? Like when I was drinking my mother's soup, right? Oh man, it was. And then the dog was waiting, and I was just waiting my chance to put the plate down. So, Prabhupada concludes, the life of Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, however, was not tasteless. Although he was at the end of his life, that's the reference. As he grew older, his life remained as fresh as in the beginning because of his continued Krishna consciousness. So the more we taste, the more we become addicted. I don't even want to give some horrible examples of our personal life, but some things that are distasteful. The more you try it and try it and try it, then you start thinking, it's not so bad, it's good, it's tasty. And I remember as a kid, sometimes you hear a song, and you may not like it so much, but if you hear it long enough, you start liking it. Because it's everywhere, in the taxi, in the bus, in the shopping center, everyone is, singing that song. So at one point, it's like, oh, I like that song. So if you do it long enough, it becomes tasteful. So this is Prabhupada's message. You have to hear again and again and again. And at some point, it becomes an acquired taste, it's called. Yeah? So the more we do the activities of Krishna consciousness, the more it's revealed. Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad Gita, in the last verse of the, second last verse of the Chatusloki. What's that verse? Tisham sasada yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam tadhami buddhi jogantam. I give you the intelligence by which you can come to me. So I give you the intelligence, but intelligence is not only to do things, but intelligence also to understand what is tasty and what is tasteless. That's the function of the intelligence, to discriminate. This is good, this is bad. And sometimes we like things, right? Like Maharaj came, Bhaktivedanta Swami came, and Mother Krishna Bhavana organized a box of rasagulas and a box of rasmalais for the devotees, and we were distributing there. And so Maharaj left yesterday, and we were giving things back. And I told my wife, I said, save some rasmalais for me. And sure enough, last night, I thought, I can't help it. I went and I ate a rasmalai. Oh, I regretted last night because, I had a terrible night. Because they're big, they're gigantic, this big, bigger than in Mayapur. So sometimes we have a taste, and then we are driven by that taste. I like this, you go and eat that. I like to hear that, and you go and hear that. So the taste of Krishna consciousness, the whole secret of Krishna consciousness is the taste. And in the most, gross way, how do we experience the taste of something Krishna conscious? What is the most obvious thing? We are experts here in New Govardhana. Prasadam. Just lining up for the prasadam. And I remember the first time somebody gave me prasadam. I went to the Sunday feast. Some friend of mine who had joined said, you have to go. So I went there with two of my friends. And the temple president, he came out and he said, oh, you have to honor prasadam. I didn't know the word prasadam. So he brought this plate, this metal plate. In those days, I remember my mom used to say, metal plates are only used in jail and in the lunatic asylum. Huh? Not like now, So there I was with the metal plate, and a mountain of bigun sabji. What do you call? Eggplant. I hated eggplant. And the Prabhu said, you have to eat it all because it's sanctified food, it's a spiritual food. And if you leave one bit, you go to hell or something like that. Those were the days. And I'm like, I said, this is back to my mom's training camp. Back to the soup. I said, oh no. But he said it, and he was shaved up and all, dressed like a monk. And I thought, oh, this is a very powerful thing. So there I was, doing my austerity. And my friends said, stop this. And they just left. And they left me there with the prasad. And I was eating the food, And then the Prabhu came and pat me on my back. He says, oh, good boy. You honor prasadam. This is the beginning of your spiritual life. He started giving me a whole thing about the tongue, how spiritual life begins with the tongue, right? I hated it, but somehow. And I remember once, long time after, many, many years back, I had to cook for my Guru Maharaj. I'm not a cook. Definitely I'm not a cook. But I had to cook for him. So I tried rice, dal, chapati, something. I was giving to him. And I said, Guru Maharaj, I'm sorry, I'm not a cook, but you haven't said anything about the food. And he said, that I haven't said anything about the food, take it as a compliment. So, and then we start talking about cooking and food and things like that. And he's an expert in prasadam and all that. And then I told him about the story. And then he said, "Oh, don't feel so bad. I also don't like eggplant sabji. It's one of the sabjis that I really don't like, unless it's cooked in a certain way." So anyway, the point is that Prabhupada is making here that we have to develop a taste. And if we don't develop a taste in our life for spiritual activities in connection to Krishna, then our life becomes vain and tasteless. Imagine. Okay, so these are the points that Prabhupada is referring to in the purport, and we're trying to give a context of the Bhagavatam, and particularly the examples that Swayambhuva Manu is giving us, and the descriptions of his life and how he engaged for so many years. We say 24 hours, right? That's what the verse Rupa Goswami says. But here, who remembers how many years Prabhupada refers to here, the life? What's that? 4,320,000 years times 71. That's a long, long time. I remember I was shocked when I heard 24 hours. But that, it's the same. Because it doesn't matter how many years we live. If you do it 24 hours, that doesn't matter. If it's 100 or 1,000 or 1,000,000 years, that's what it is. Okay, so we stop here. We have a few more minutes for questions or points, if anything. Please.
Can endure only as long as life is fresh. And fresh sort of means something's new.
New.
So
Jovana.
when you're younger, you can, you're doing things that's new. Maybe this is going to work. Material enjoyment. But after you've tried it and tried it and tried it, and it all ends in failure.
Yeah.
Probably said, like, by the end of life, by the fag end, it becomes tasteless.
Depressed.
Because you've chewed the chewed for so many years.
Yeah. Rihanna Maharaj has an example, a little joke. It says life is like bubble gum. In the beginning it's all taste, but at the end it's all work, just endeavor. You just chew, and there's no taste anymore. So you become depressed. But I remember once Devamrita Swami was giving a class, very good class. And he said, so sometimes we prematurely may think that we have advanced. And then we have become detached. But the only thing is that the body is so old and so unable, dysfunctional to enjoy, that your enthusiasm to enjoy life decreases. And we may think, he was saying, that, oh, I'm so advanced now. I'm almost like a sannyas. But he says, wait till you take your next birth. What sort of body would you have? You have a young one, fresh one, strong one, and then you will still be running after the things that you couldn't enjoy in your previous life. So for devotees, this is a blessing in one sense, right? Because the body is not the same as before. But for materialistic people who are not Krishna conscious, this is just a phase. Because the desire hasn't died out, correct? The desire remains. And the desire is what will lead us next life to again 12, 15 years old, 16 years old, enjoying sports, enjoying the parties, and all what goes on with that. So we have to be very careful to develop taste in this lifetime. And when Prabhupada was asked, in one lifetime? He says, yes, this lifetime. So a devotee the other day told me, he revealed his mind, he says, Prabhu, I have been in the movement, I don't know how many years, he said 20 something, 25, nearly 30 years. And I said, well, that's great. And he said, but I'm not happy. I said, why you're not happy? Because I feel I'm stuck. I just knew a few verses, I do some service, I have been here, I have been there, this festival, that festival, but I feel I'm not advancing. He told me like that. I said, Prabhu, I give him a hug. I said, we're in the same club. Let's try to advance. Let's try to do it. Yes, he says, yes. Thank you, Prabhu. So anyway, we are here in this boat, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his disciples and his representatives and the devotees, we are here. We have to push ourselves. Help the team to go further. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Mahaprasad.